Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay, go for it, Al.
Okay. Welcome to our Team Empower call. We're excited that you're here. One big announcement is that they now have a Shakeology and Portion Fix challenge pack, but that is just for existing customers. So that would be for like people who signed up for the 14-day Beachbody On Demand trial and wanted to like continue Beachbody On Demand in quarterly payments. They can get the Shakeology and Portion Fix challenge pack, which is the same price as just Shakeology on its own. It's still $130. So basically you're just getting Portion Fix for free is how it works. So yeah, that's it. And Summit is so close. Oh my land. It's like what, 10 days away or something?
Something like that, yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's exciting. So yeah, that's what we have for today. So our call, unless you have anything, Lace? No? Our call today, we wanted to go over any questions or just talk about the BAT, the Business Activity Tracker, because we are in the second phase of our summer sizzle or whatever we called it. I can't remember now. But we are really wanting everyone to follow the recommended numbers on the BAT, which I know freaks a lot of people out, and everyone was nervous to jump to the recommended number. So we wanted to talk about the BAT, specifically the areas that you guys are struggling with. And did anyone comment with particular questions on the BAT? I don't remember, Lace. Okay. While Lacey's looking, Kelly and Katie, are there specific areas on the BAT that kind of like freak you out or you want more clarification on or anything like that?
For the social media posts, I mean I try to post and then I try to follow up, like ask a question to get people to get involved with whatever I'm posting. I feel like I'm posting the same thing. I mean, I'm trying to post, but I feel like I'm maybe posting like, talking about water or something like that, just trying to get people motivated or, into my journey with that. But I just not sure what to say sometimes, and then I get clustered.
Right. I think what I like to tell my new coaches to do and recommend, I feel like in the beginning when we're getting in the habit of posting, was kind of more of like a checklist, and we think, okay, we need to post about, like you said, water or my workout or something like that. And we try to tie our story around the post. Like we try to tie our story around water or something like that, when really what we want you to do is to tie what you're doing around your story. Like to remember that your social media profile and your social media posts should be about you and your story and how what you're doing is affecting you. Does that make sense? Like, do you see the difference between those two things? So there's actually the National Wake Up Call on Monday is going to be about that, about storytelling, like specifically with your posts on social media and how to be a storyteller rather than just like a poster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's going to be good or not. I'm sure it will, because she's like a bajillion star diamond, so she probably knows what I'm talking about. But is there any way, actually, do you have access to the National Wake Up Calls? Do you have the podcast app on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you listen to the Team Beachbody channel?
I have not. No.
Okay, so there's a team.
When it's like I'm at work on Mondays, and one time when I went to go listen, I couldn't get in there because the call was over, and I've never used it before to see how to get back in there.
Yeah, so I've actually never listened to a National Wake Up Call live ever before. So what I do is I just, on the podcast app, there's a Team Beachbody channel, and it has all of the past National Wake Up Calls there. And so on Tuesday, like when you know it's going to be over, go ahead and just log in there and listen to the last call, which will be the one on Monday. And will you just take a few notes and then share with us what you learned in Team Empower, and maybe that will help everyone, because everyone struggles with what you're struggling with. You're not alone in that. And really, posting is more of like an art than a science. It's not really A plus B equals C. It's more fluid than that,
Yeah.
So it comes with time too. But these like national wake up calls, and we have a few calls too on social media. But will you listen to the national wake up call on Tuesday, just on the podcast, and then share with us a few things that you learned?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm actually off on Monday, so maybe I'll be able to just jump on and actually listen to it live for once. So
Awesome.
I'm not at work.
That's awesome. Sweet. Yay for a day off. That's nice.
Actually, I have a half a day tomorrow, and then I don't go back till next Thursday, so I'm really excited.
Oh, nice. So you sleep in that bed for a while, girl. Nice. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. So what about you, Katie? Do you have any, what areas of the bat do you struggle with the most?
I guess just the scary part of like finally getting to the point where you're like, hey, oh, sorry. Someone was calling me. Where you're finally like, okay, I'm going to ask you to join my group now. Like, I'm doing better with the reconnecting and feeling more genuine about that whole process. Thanks to Lacey's help this last week. But yeah, just like knowing when to make that jump, because it just feels scary and pushy still,
Right.
And I've been thinking this last week, like I've put 2 posts up this week that had at the end of it, like I'm starting my next like challenge type group and then like 3 weeks or whatever, and so join me. And so I've had one person who's been interested, and I've sent her a bunch of information and stuff, and we've chatted back and forth, but it's like, why can't people who are who would be interested just respond that way? Because
right,
it just is hard to make that leap into
right.
inviting people.
Totally. Something that really helped me in the reconnecting process is, and I'm sure you and Lacey, we'll have to have Lacey tell us what she talked to you about being more genuine and reconnecting. That's a good thing to talk about. But when you get to the point in the conversation where you're just talking about challenge groups, not necessarily inviting, like you're not inviting them, but maybe they ask you what you're up to and you share briefly your story or your experience in the group, and that now you're running the groups. And then you don't end the message like that. You end the message talking about them, asking them a question. Sometimes I'll just leave it at that, like just talking about your experience in the challenge group and how maybe you're nervous about stepping into this new coaching role. Leave it at that. And then a week later, like when you announce your group, like you can send them a follow-up message and just say, hey, I know that we talked about this in our earlier messages, so I thought I'd just extend an invite to you since I'd mentioned it to you, or something like that. So that way you're not necessarily inviting them. It doesn't make it seem like you had the whole conversation because of the invite, but then you can also start a follow-up by saying, hey, since I mentioned this, I thought of you because we'd talked about it already. I'm doing another group. Is this something you'd be interested in? Does that make sense? That always made me feel less nervous because I wasn't extending an invite right away. I was just sharing my story, which I'm comfortable with doing, and then extending an invite in a follow-up sort of way. But I think it's finding what you're comfortable with, which takes time. Don't you think, Lace? Like doing it different ways and doing it the wrong way a few times. And yeah.
100%. Like it definitely takes time. And I mean, like we've talked about before, like you have to be willing to suck before you can get good,
Yeah.
And I've sent a lot of sucky messages, like a lot, but, and that's okay. Something that I was just listening to a podcast about actually, and he said the difference between the people that are successful and those that are not are that successful people have creative interpretation. And he said, basically what you're doing is you're telling a story. So the people that, like, he was using the example as like, how do I share this and without people feeling like I'm being pushy or offended? And he said, well, if you were to reach out and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. I know like we really need to catch up. It's been so long. I've started this new venture. Like I immediately thought of you because you're so awesome. I would love to take this journey with you. Would you like to join me? Kind of a thing. I personally wouldn't go about it that way, that like right out of the gate. This is just how he explained it. But he said, so the difference between the people that were going to be successful in that and the people that are not is the successful people look at it as, you know what, I haven't reached out to Katie yet, but you know what, she hasn't reached out to me either. So I need to share this with her because I think she's amazing. Whereas those people that aren't successful look at it as, oh my heck, like I can't share it with Katie because she's going to think that I'm like just trying to get money from her and she's going to be offended and I'm just not going to do it. He said, basically, everybody's a storyteller. And those people that are successful are good storytellers. And those people that are not successful are not good storytellers. And it's all about the story that you create in your mind because nothing has happened yet. It's not like you're going off of facts. You're going off of how things may or may not go. And so if you can tell yourself a positive, successful story that you feel passionate about because you're sharing your journey, you're sharing your heart, you're being genuine. Like we've already talked about the genuine part. But if you look at it as, you know what, I haven't reached out to her and I really love her and I want to share this with her versus, oh, like that just feels weird. Like, I don't know, kind of a thing, you know, like it's the same situation will probably be the same outcome. It just all comes down to what story are you going to allow to run in your brain. So I thought that was really interesting and like so true because we make up stories in our minds. And so that was something that I thought would be helpful. And what else was I going to tell you? He said, you know, if somebody is offended or like bugged or irritated, that you're genuinely reaching out and saying, hey, I adore you. Like, I would love for you to join me with this. Like, I thought of you. He's like, if they're bugged that you thought of them, you don't want to work with them anyway. Like, that's not who you want to work with. And so it's kind of on their shoulders. So if you're genuinely doing what you're doing, like sharing your heart, reconnecting, telling a story, or like sharing your story and inviting them because it's genuinely changed your life and they're not interested, then that's their thing. Like they can deal with it. Mm-hmm. But if you're out of the gate and it's one of those copy and paste, like I'm now a Beachbody coach, like come save your body with me. Like I'd be like don't do that, you know? Then yeah, I can understand being bugged, but doing it the way that you've been taught to do it and that you naturally, genuinely do it, if they're weirded out by it, bugged, whatever, like that's their thing. Like let them carry that. If you go in with a genuine heart, then I think that you're good, kind of a thing. Allie, go.
Okay, just to totally capitalize on that, I agree with that like 1,000%. So then you think, okay, well, how do I genuinely share my story? Like, that's what I want. But in the beginning, you're like, I don't know how to do that because it is something that you try and you learn as you like do well and then you fail and do well and you do well. So like in the beginning when you're thinking, oh my gosh, how do I share my story in a way that it's genuine? Like, I don't know how to do that with someone I don't know or I barely know on Facebook, you know. I tell like people, first of all, pretend like you're not a coach. Okay. Like, I feel like since we have that title of coach, we automatically feel like we're being salesy, right? Like I'm a coach. Oh my gosh, I'm selling something. Like people are going to think I'm a salesman. So when you're reconnecting, like take the whole coaching aspect of it just out of the picture. And I like to like imagine someone that you trust or that you feel really comfortable with. Like I would think of Lacey or my mom. Okay. And the way that you would explain, if Lacey were to ask me, you know, like, what was that challenge group that you did? Like, tell me about the challenge group. Like the way that I would explain it to her, I would be very genuine. I would tell her exactly how I felt before I joined the group, how I felt during the group, you know, and if I'm talking to her like I'm not a coach, I'm actually telling her about my experience with no sort of like end game, right? I'm not telling her about my experience because I want her to join my group or because I want to make a sale. I'm telling her because she is interested and I want to share it with her because it changed my life. So when I can think about sharing my story and reconnecting with people with that, like sort of in the back of my mind, that I'm sharing it with someone that I care about, like my sister, that I feel comfortable about, as if I'm not a coach, as if I'm not trying to sell something, it's easier for me to share my story and reconnect with people because I don't have like that hanging over my head, like I'm a salesman or I'm being salesy, you know? And so, and since then, and it's hard to do in the beginning because you're not used to talking to people that you don't know or you know just a little bit. But I was thinking about this today. There's someone that from high school that I've sent messages to, just catching up with him, and he'll obviously never join a group. because I don't run groups for guys, you know, but I'd never reach out and reconnect with him if it weren't for coaching. And like, I was telling my husband about him the other day that just like our brief interactions, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I have the confidence to reach out to people now, because I know I'm making a difference for him by reconnecting with him and being genuine. Things I wouldn't have known how to do without coaching because I was so scared before. So reconnecting, you guys, is such a blessing beyond coaching. And you have to remember, you really aren't reconnecting just to make a sale. Like, and in the beginning, it feels that way. And maybe it is that way in the beginning, you know, that you are. But once you kind of learn the art of reconnecting and feel the benefits beyond coaching, you realize what a benefit you can be in people's lives just by being a friend. Because that's really why we're reconnecting, is, you know, to like bond with people and build trust and have friendships and relationships. And you start to remember that once you can get past like the how-tos of reconnecting, and if that makes sense at all. So, yeah. So I think that's the biggest one, is reconnecting and inviting that people feel uncomfortable with.
I do.
That's the one question that Sarah had. She said, reconnects. How do you do so many? It feels stupid just being like, hi, out of nowhere. How do you get the convo to Beachbody without trying to sell? So I think you did a pretty good job answering.
Yeah, she's like totally dead on too, because you feel like an idiot in the beginning of coaching when you're like, hey, I don't really know you. Like, bud, you know, I don't know what to say. And that just comes like over time. She did send me a personal message and said, you know, I can talk about the weather and like your kids and stuff like that all day. But her question to me on this personal message was, how do you make the jump from that to Beachbody? And yeah. So my advice for that is like how to steer the conversation towards Beachbody is, first of all, don't push it. Like, if it doesn't go to Beachbody, that's fine. Like, your goal is just to reconnect, because the goal of reconnecting is really to build trust and relationships. And the more you talk to people on Messenger, the more your posts get in their feed, so they're going to be seeing what you post. And then, but one way I try to steer it towards Beachbody, if it feels natural, you know, is just when they ask you what you're up to, don't be scared to tell them what you're up to, right? Like, the conversation will steer towards them asking you what you're up to most of the time. And oftentimes we're just too scared to like mention what we've been up to.
Mom, can I talk to Lucy for a little bit?
Just a minute, okay? Let us finish, and you can talk to Lacey for a minute, okay?
Okay.
So, anyway, what about you, Lace? What would you say about steering the conversation towards Beachbody?
I would say the same thing. I say the same about like
Here.
and you know, reconnects and everything. Like, be intentional. You know, like, be genuine. Gosh, there's this fly. Like,
What is he think?
be genuine, but be intentional. You know, so I mean, just like Allie was saying, don't be afraid to tell them what you're doing. Like, that is so super easy just to kind of like skim over and be like, oh yeah, I'm a coach and my kids, you know, and like go on and on and on. And like that little tiny tidbit gets lost in there. But just besides sharing, yes, I'm a coach, but like sharing your heart and your story and your like how you've changed inside kind of. So everything you just said, I would agree with 100%. So
cool. Yeah.
I do. With the bat, I never really done personal development or anything before, and so now I'm doing 2 books on the audio. One of, you know, for positivity, and then another book that we were reading. I don't remember the name of it. So that's a good part of the bat for me. I just wanted to share that.
Totally. I never did personal development either, Kelly, before coaching. I didn't even know what that was, to be honest. I was like, development, what? yeah, I didn't know what that was. So that's been a huge benefit for me too, just as a person. You know,
So
I've grown so much as a person.
on my way to work, I will turn on my, the book and listen to it, and then, I'm able to listen to it sometimes at work, except for it's hard to listen sometimes because I love to take notes.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening, it's hard because then I'm like, okay, I have to stop because I'm going to have to re-listen because I take a lot of notes. And
Yeah.
I don't know where I'll ever use them, but I have reference back to them when either talking with somebody or just trying to put it together. I just love taking the notes from them. But personal development has been a huge. It's just helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I can see you.
I totally agree with you there. Sometimes too, he's trying to do the robot. He just learned the robot, so he's like, McKay's like, go to the robot behind the screen. Okay.
Something that I think that I hear people talk about a lot, and I'm not great at doing it yet, but I know that it's something that I'm going to start implementing in connection with personal development, is they talk a lot about journaling and how sit down and journal or write out, not just take your notes to another level. So take notes on what you're hearing and what you're learning, but then journal about how it makes you feel and what actions you want to take with it and how to implement it.
Why do you want?
First step, but then is
Why do
out with an action step. It kind of allows our thoughts to cement in our brain a little bit more. Do you see that fly right there? Do you see it? It's making me bananas. Go away. Anyway, so yeah, journal. I've heard that over and over and over in personal development is the importance of journaling. And so that's something that I'm committing myself to do, because I am classic at just listening to my personal development and being yeah, that's awesome. I'm on fire. And then just continuing on with my day. Yeah, it gives me fuel to keep going and I enjoy it. And I definitely can tell those days that I have listened to personal development and that I haven't. But it can become, I always tell my girls at church, if you're going to learn something, learn it and use it, or there's no point in learning it. And that's the thing with personal development, learn it and use it, or else it's just kind of that was great, but it's pointless, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that journaling is a really important aspect in connection with personal development.
I love that. Personal development with a purpose type of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
So
cool.
What?
Well, one thing I wanted to say really quick about the bat is I know Leanne's not on the call, but she is somebody she's had the bat for ever since she was a coach.
Mom, can I have both of them?
Always super nervous about it. Always said, I just don't have time. I can't do this. I start on Monday and then it just doesn't pan out for me. It just never was something that would that she could be consistent with. She always had a hard time with it. And then once we started this summer thing, she committed and she's done it. And I have seen in the last 3 weeks, her business take off, and her focus and her determination and her just intention totally catch on fire. And so it was just kind of a reminder to me that it's all about consistency with the little things. And something else I was just listening to on my personal development is he said, what did he say? Commitment is doing what you say you will do when the moment you say in the moment you say it has passed. So with personal development, or when we go to a seminar, or when we're on a call, those things, it's we catch on fire, we get excited because we're with like-minded people, or we hear something that really speaks to us and we commit to do something, but then tomorrow comes and then the next day comes and that determination kind of fizzles. But it's as commitment really comes in when it's hard to do something, but we get up and we do it anyway. And it's as we do that, that's when the momentum starts to carry, and that's when the motivation shows up. Because there's days that we wake up and we're I can say I'm I wake up and I'm like not motivated and like not wanting to do any of this, like not wanting to open my computer, not wanting to open my phone, like super not motivated. But I found that like motivation doesn't just show up. Like it doesn't just turn on and turn off. The only way motivation comes is when we get up and we do the little things consistently. And so to find motivation in our business and to find success and to find kind of that momentum moving forward, it's all about the stuff on the back, being consistent with those, even when it feels like a little hard, or when it feels like it's outside of our comfort zone, or if it feels kind of like, holy cow, that's a lot of numbers, but it gets easier. And like Leanne just, I have my text on my computer. I should let me read you what she said, because I was like, this is so awesome. She said, and I'm following the bat. Woohoo. A month ago, I would have never dreamed that would happen. I feel like some of the coaches I've been listening to on the National Wake Up Call. And this is after she had like told me all about like her group is growing in her clean eating group, and she has people that once said no and are now saying yes, and like just all of this momentum and fire. And so I know the bat can feel annoying. It can feel overwhelming. Like it can feel like numbers. But if you look at it as this is my key to motivation and this is my key to momentum, that's when that becomes not like a little piece of paper that you have to mark off, but it becomes like, this is my map. This is what's going to guide me to my goals of like helping people and making a difference and, you know, creating income and building a team. And like that is your map. So that's just kind of something that I learned from Leanne this last few weeks, is it's just
Yeah, so totally. Something that you said like in order to be motivated, you have to like get going or whatever. Will you stop for just a minute? Okay. Here, put it in your ear. Now I'm going to forget everything I was going to say. Wait, just a minute, please, Kate, just a minute. In order, like we hear in our challenge groups all the time, or like people you're talking to about fitness or something, and they'll say, I'm just not motivated. Like I just need to find my motivation. I love that Lacey said, you know, motivation just doesn't appear out of thin air. Just a minute. That you have, can you go inside for a minute?
No.
Yes, then you need to be quiet. Okay, you've got to be quiet. Okay. Motivation comes from acting. And I love that, because I think of all the times I'm feeling unmotivated, and what am I doing? I'm like sitting on my butt in bed, or like sitting in front of the TV, or, you know, like I don't want to do that. But when I'm actually doing what I want to feel motivated to do, that's when the motivation comes. Like motivation only comes through acting. It's like motivation is a consequence of acting. You have to just start. Like, of course you're not going to feel motivated to eat healthy because you're eating crap. Like, you know, like you're never going to feel motivated really until you like get going. And then once you get going, then it becomes easier and easier. I know before this week, I just was eating really crappy, and I felt crappy, and I was uncomfortable, you know, my clothes were whatever, and I just stopped. I just didn't want to start. Like I wasn't motivated, you know. But then when I started on Monday, like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna like grit my teeth and bear it and get through it. Well, now I'm like, freak no, I'm not gonna have those chips. Like I have goals that I am gonna keep. And that's because I made a choice and I started acting. And it's the same thing with coaching, because so many times I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And where am I? Like, even physically, when I'm thinking those thoughts, it's usually when I'm like being lazy or idle, you know, I'm like sitting, or like, I don't know, wasting my time. And I don't know about you, but ever since I've been coaching, I realized how much more I can do when I thought I didn't have the time, you know. And I think that comes a lot from personal development, where I've learned how to do things more efficiently and how not to waste so much time, you know, things that I thought I needed. Like I thought I needed to watch TV for the hour and a half when my kids were napping, or I thought I had to sleep in, or, you know, just little things like that I've learned since doing personal development and coaching, that I don't really need those things, if that makes sense. But anyway, that was a tangent. You can talk to her in just a minute. We're almost done. Okay. Anyway.
That's awesome. Well, so we don't keep Miss Macy waiting any longer to talk to her favorite auntie. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's always so great to see you guys. We really appreciate the effort that you make to be here and know that it does make a difference in your business to show up on stuff like this. So we always look forward to having the calls with you guys. So thank you for being here. You guys are wonderful, and we'll see you next Thursday. So, oh wait, Kelly has one question.
I just have a question for Allie. She always, in her post, that she talks about like reading her scriptures and stuff in the morning. Like, what do you read, if you don't mind me asking? Like, because I love doing things in the morning. I love to be able to do my workout and be able to sit and like, even if it's 10, 15 minutes do on my own. And I just really like when you said that you got your scriptures read and you know. Did I read it?
I can't hear us.
Sorry. Just a sec.
She lost me. I can send her a personal message so that way you can talk to Lacey. She's so excited to talk to you, Lacey.
Totally fine. She's so funny. She cracks me up.
She's so cute. I have all boys, so she's a little girl.
Yeah, boys and girls definitely bring a different spice to the house. That's for sure.
I'm very thankful I only have boys. I wanted a girl, but I ended up with just boys.
Boys.
All right, well, I'll see you guys next week then.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Kelly.
Bye.